Lillian McDermott, weekdays at noon on AM 1510, FM 99.9, 94.7, and 100.7. The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Helping Seniors, the radio arm of Helping Seniors of Brevard.org. It's our business to inform, to educate, and to help connect those that need senior care with resources, and not only help those that need them, but those that care for the people that need the resources. Kay Kaiser is our information specialist, and you can reach Kay by calling area code 321-473-7770. And the important thing for making the call, folks, is that while you may have a specific want, need, or a question, often in the course of making the call, Kay will ask you a question. Maybe it'll trigger something else, or something you say may trigger something on Kay's mind. And we often find out that people need something they haven't thought about as much as the expressed need that they called about. And the long and the short of it is that since we opened officially in October of 2014, we've helped well over 1,700 families, and it was ironic that we were able to help over 50 the first 2 weeks of this year. So it shows a definite upswing in the need, and that's really to be expected because we have so many more seniors living in Brevard County. And we have some wonderful resources in Brevard County, and we have a large number of, we call them sponsors or partners, because almost all these people that help pay our way are people involved in senior care, elder care, whatever you want to call it. But it's places like the Kindred Hospital, the Eye Institute, Dr. Lee Shelton, Bill Johnson, who's one of my panelists today. There's radio station, Wusthof Hospital Systems, 11 Home Care, Zahn Beachside Assisted Living, Ebony News Today, Organized Creative Solutions, Brevard Chiropractic and Neurogen Wellness Center of Rockledge, Cobblestone Real Estate. Just think about some of those names I'm mentioning. Then there's the Memory Care from Market Street. Brand new places opened up. And, you know, there's always so much talk, and John and Bill, my panelists today, will talk about it, but we think that the cost of care, yes, it has gone up. But consider what you're getting and the cost of everything else. It's rising. But the important thing is, are you able to place your loved one in a place that you're happy with, that takes good care of your family member? And I think that's the important thing. And with that said, let's just talk a little bit about today's show. And folks, I had cataract surgery. I've had the left and the right eye done, and I'm still looking over the top of my glasses because I don't see that well yet. You do see better, but you don't see as much as you want to see. But I sort of titled the show, Who Promotes Senior Care? And John Frederiksen is one of our panelists, and John's the publisher of Senior Scene magazine, and Bill Johnson, who is an elder law attorney. And while I've got some specific questions I want to ask both the gentlemen today, I'd like just Bill to give us a quick overview of some of the things that are happening on the legislative front, because there are some things that if they're not handled correctly or handled the right way, and maybe mistakes have been made admitted, and the legislature being willing to fund the necessary dollars to cover the care, we might be in trouble. All right, Bill?
Well, there's a variety of interesting things going on and a variety of bills that are being suggested. One would take the nursing home out of the managed care program and make it a standalone kind of program under Medicaid so that it would no longer be subject to the waiver program. There is another bill that's been proposed that would allow you to sue your HMO if they did not do what they were supposed to do under the terms of your policy. So, I mean, those are two interesting ones, I think. There are several others that deal with, namely one that's probably going to come down the pike at some point, is whether or not we get Medicaid block grant in Florida. But before that comes, we probably would have to have some big changes at the federal level. But our Senate President, Senator Negron, has had the state looking into that. Right now, there's another interesting proposal on electronic wills that would allow you to sign a will electronically, and the witnesses could be located at someplace else, and the notary could be someplace else, and you all are able to look at each other through the computer. We're not sure that one's going to pass, but interesting concept.
Are you in favor of something like that?
Right now, I'm not because I don't think there's been any studying done. This is being proposed by a company that has a business model that would like to do this. So there's a lot of problems with, what about undue influence? Who's in the room with the testator? What if they're off camera and you can't see them? Who's going to vouch for the capacity of the testator? There's a lot of things that are problematic with that. We have some minor tweaks to guardianship law that are being proposed, and so the current leadership has required that all proposed bills be filed here. The deadline's coming up, and after that deadline, they're not going to accept any. So it has to be in bill drafting and going by a certain deadline, unlike previous years where you could, submit bills all the way up until, session starts and very end. Now, if you don't have it in bill drafting and it's not coming out, it's not going to be heard. So this is going to give a lot of hearing time, I think, and a lot of forethought to our legislative process.
John, listening to what Bill was talking about, do you get a sense of these things as the publisher of Senior Scene magazine? Do you get questions, or are you aware of the things that Bill's talking about?
No, I hadn't heard those specifics, but it's interesting about wills. The real estate business went through a lot of changes. Well, I guess it's many years ago now, where sale closings went through electronically, whereas before it couldn't be done that way, or in some cases fax was okay, or good old FedEx. But that changed. But what I'm hearing Bill say, there's some unique problems with the will process that doesn't necessarily parallel the real estate. But I see those changes coming. I just hope it's done with a lot of forethought for the problems you mentioned.
Yeah, I think the view is that it's inevitable, that it's going to happen, but you're going to have to put in some safeguards, because I can tell you I get undue influence cases in my office weekly where some kid shows up with a parent wanting to change the parent's will. I mean, that's a weekly occurrence. And now if you're going to start letting people do all this stuff online where they can sign these wills and, I just don't know if that's going to work.
Every time I hear anybody talk about changing wills, I think back to 1987, and I was a governor at the Naval Home in Gulfport, Mississippi. That was my last Navy job, and I had a guy that was fairly wealthy who lived at the home, and he had a will made out for years, and he was very specific as to what he wanted to have that money, where he wanted it to go. And there was a nephew that he didn't particularly care for that challenged the will. And he got up in the courtroom and made a statement to the judge, and the judge asked him a question. And the kid answered the judge. The judge told him either he had two choices. He could leave the courtroom so he didn't have to hear any more, or else he could just shut up and sit down. Because he said, your uncle knew what he was doing when he did his will. He said, I don't care what you're saying.
Well, I think one of the interesting things is, I contest wills all the time, and I get asked to contest wills. And if I find out that, the will was done by a lawyer's office, that's one thing as compared to, they downloaded a will or got a form and they had mom do this at home while they were sitting there, with mom relying on them for all her care and food and all that. And those are the cases, the undue influence cases that are very much easier to win than the ones where they went to a lawyer's office. And so if there's a case called the Carpenter case that spells out what is undue influence. Well, if you're doing something online, you don't need it unless you know what the Carpenter case says, which I can guarantee most people don't. You wouldn't even know what to look for as far as undue influence.
Yeah. Well, when you get back to this undue influence and talking about the durable power of attorney, I often think so many times, Bill, since 1996, you have talked about durable powers of attorney on my radio show, and then you did it on the TV show. And there's one thing that has never changed in all that time, and it's this. A durable power of attorney has to have every power that you want to have. The durable power cover, it has to be stated in the durable power of attorney, correct?
Correct.
Now, if you do a office depot will like Sean Hannity and these other talk show guys talk about all the time, they say download a will for $10 and you got everything covered, you're not going to get that same kind of service, and you're going to save money, but you're going to lose in the long run.
The big problem I have with all the forms that are available online is I get them in my office all the time and people have not signed them correctly. I get people come in with wills that they got, off of one of those online services, and they bring them into my office, and they've signed it, and it says they signed on June 10th, and then their neighbors were the witnesses, and they date it June 12th, and there's all kinds of problems, and then there's no notary, and half of them are incorrectly executed.
At the same time, you can correctly execute that will, and you can do yourself in. And the reason I say that is because I remember a case years ago when I was the director of the Alzheimer's program that I had a family came to me, really super nice people, and one of their relatives had gone to an attorney and had this thing locked in tight about how his care was supposed to be. And it turned out, while the man was in the nursing home, it was over in St. Cloud, while he was in the nursing home, the will stated that he had to have bedside care from another besides the nursing home. In other words, it was costing him about $400 a day in the nursing home, and he went through $300,000 so quick. It wasn't even funny. A family came to me. We even went to the state attorney general, and the attorney general said, "It's in the will, Joe. It's done. It was executed correctly. Everything." He says, "I can't break it." And I just couldn't. I found that hard to accept. It was so obvious that a wrong was being done that we couldn't correct it, Bill.
Yeah, the law only protects you if you're incapacitated. It doesn't prevent you from making bad decisions if you have capacity.
That's why it's so important when you're dealing with finances or long-term care or any kind of an insurance policy that you get the right kind of advice. And I think, John, in Senior Scene magazine, you've got several sponsors that are pretty good about one of them is sitting right here.
I'm going to interrupt you, Joe, but you were talking about the powers of attorney in that.
Right.
If you pick up Senior Scene magazine and look right in the middle, there's a little article I wrote that's right in there, all talking about powers of attorney and how they're not all created equally.
You preempted me.
Well,
that's exactly what I was going to talk about. I was going to give John a chance.
I thought it was a nice lead-on.
Yeah, I know, but you just cut my legs right out from underneath me.
You don't need
Go
me
ahead,
here.
John.
Yeah, you don't need me here. Joe, I've got a question, though. Is this category of service a typical phone call into the organization? Do you see it very often where some senior is at a loss for needing help in this area? Do you know if it's a frequent or current kind of need?
John, this happens almost. When I was the active director of the Alzheimer's program, I probably situations like that happened to me 4 or 5 times a week. Really. In the old days, when I was director of the Alzheimer's program, we were doing at the Alzheimer's Foundation exactly what we're doing in addition to what we did with the Alzheimer's care and the daycare and all that. We were doing what we were doing now with helping seniors. We did that because we knew there was a need. People did not know what's happening in the area. We just had a phone call last week from a lady that she couldn't get any food. She was eating bologna sandwiches. That's the only thing she had to eat. She did not know about the Meals on Wheels program. Simply didn't know. A problem I have, and perhaps both of you could discuss this. I'll sort of outline the thing, and then Bill, I know you could probably comment on it. You have a situation with the Meals on Wheels program. It's federally funded under the Old American Act, and it's a national program. And right now, the director for the National Meals on Wheels program, according to the Kaiser Foundation, is projected to lose money this year and have a problem with their funding because they're projecting a shortfall in federal dollars and with a drastically increased need. And this is an article I got right out of the National Elder Law Association Attorney Network newsletter. So I know it's researched. It's true. Yet we have a Meals on Wheels program here in Brevard County. It's a good program. It's a wonderful program. And it's paid for with federal funds, and United Way contributes to it, and the county contributes to it too. But there are people that don't even know about it. And there was this lady, close to 90 years old, did not even know there was a program such as this available. And at the same time, we have people that use the Meals on Wheels program. They don't like some of the meals, so there's a couple of other organizations now that are starting doing these prepackaged meals, and they're doing these things for $5. And they're delivered and the delivery fee is included in the charge. So there's a lot of ways that the people can be helped, and these are the kind of things that Kay can tell the people when they call. But who else, just stop and think about it for a minute. Who else are people in need going to call to find out? If they called you at Senior Scene Magazine, you wouldn't know that.
No, we immediately refer them to your organization.
I know, and that's what you do. Bill does some of the same thing. But Bill, what is your take on what I'm talking about on the Meals on Wheels program, all these wonderful programs we have, but they're not advertised, and people simply,
my understanding, and I'm not sure if you can talk to this, is that there's actually a waiting list for Meals on Wheels now.
There is a waiting list for Meals on Wheels, and there is also a decrease in the number of routes that they will follow to distribute the food. So with the increase in number of elders needing the meals, and with the increased cost, and with the potential, I don't know it yet, shortfall in federal funding, it's going to make it more important that local programs do a better job of building local finances, and that's what Helping Seniors has been trying to do. We haven't depended on grants or anything else for our existence. We've tried to put a solid funding mechanism in place by building partnerships with people. You're both of you guys are partners with the thing, and it's a way. I think that we can do a better job across the board of giving services to people, not only for people that have a financial need for it, but there's more than financial need, and that's what you found, Bill.
Right. I think there's more people than the program can meet, and you need to expand the fundraising for the program beyond the federal grants.
I'm glad. I'm gonna get a talking note that get you guys both to talk a little bit more, and I'll get you to become members of our new club that we're starting. We'll talk about that on the second part of the program. But what do you have, John?
Oh, I was just looking at. Yeah, okay. We'll wait till the second half of the program to talk about the club. But yeah, funding is always a problem, and the sponsors for Helping Seniors. There's a couple of things to remember. The people that are helping the organization, the sponsors, they are in the business of working with seniors. There are small, maybe not so small, particular problems, I'll call it, that need to be addressed, whether it's the legality, the paperwork that needs to be filled out for certain services, but it's unique to the senior population. So
Yeah.
these people that are in the organization, they're aware of that. They know where to steer a person or how to steer a person so that some subtle problems don't arise in dealing with, say, some of the help organizations or repayment. They also know, like somebody that might be helping with a modification to a home, that there are certain needs for a senior that need to be met. It's not just a simple repair. So these people that are sponsors are involved in that. They know that they have the special expertise, and that's something to keep in mind when coming to the organization, that there's a specialty here, and it's met.
Yeah, I think everybody have to keep in mind that really there's no free lunch anywhere in the world. Somebody's got to pay something somewhere along the line to make sure something happens. Just real quick, we had a lady that called that needed cataract surgery, and she was on Medicare, but she didn't have secondary insurance, and she just really couldn't afford it. She couldn't get a job, and she's over 65. Actually, Kay referred her to a home health care organization that hired her on the spot. So she's just delighted because she's got a job, she's gone back to work, and she's going to be able to get her cataract surgery. So these are all important things. But folks, we're going to take a quick mid-show break, and we'll be back on the other side, and we'll get to some of the questions I want to ask Bill and John. But stay with us for the next half of the show.
Ed Dean, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. on FM 99.9, 94.7, and 100.7.
This is Joe Steckler, folks. We're back live with the second half of Helping Seniors for this afternoon, this Thursday afternoon. It's the 1st of February? 1st of February. Second. Oh, I already got into leap year. I jumped today already. I'm only kidding. The purpose of our show, folks, is to inform, educate, and connect seniors and those that care for seniors with some of the many, many wonderful, wonderful resources we have here in Brevard County. Just like President Trump says, to make America great again, and we're going to fix this, we're going to do that. Helping Seniors has taken a sort of a lead role in trying to advocate for seniors, and that's something I want to talk about on the second half of the show, because I think both Bill and John see the need for senior advocacy, and it's extremely important. But before I do that, both Bill and John have commented on the fact that many of the partners and stuff that help pay for this show are people that serve seniors. And I just want to mention a few of them that do help us. One of them is Senior Scene Magazine, and that's publisher John Frederiksen, who's with us today in the booth. Hometown News. Hometown News does something like 59,000 papers in Brevard County, and like 200,000 between a three-county area. Spotlight Magazine, Seniors Helping Seniors, The Fountains of Melbourne, Courtney and Braswell, Canadian Meds of Melbourne, Ear Care, Vitas Hospice, Aldea Today Newspaper, In-Home Personal Services, Veterans Realty, just a whole slew of people. And we have so many people that help us. We've got to start working some of them into the show more, and we do that through the sponsors and everything. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, because Bill is an elder law attorney, and he sees so many people that have needs for legal services. Some can afford them, some can't. I know he does a lot of work to help people. But John, on the other hand, has the Senior Scene Magazine, and he can talk about meeting the needs of seniors from helping promote surveys. And I think both of you know what I'm trying to get at here. The importance of advocacy, John, and you're a strong advocate of that.
Well, of course. I mean, throughout the years of doing the magazine, we've certainly have seen a wide variety of circumstances with people. I mean, the people we meet, they're wonderful. I don't know where some of these other images come from, but they're heartfelt, and they're certainly vital people, and we've enjoyed knowing them, meeting them, and providing information for them. We've gotten calls at the office where people have read articles in here and want to get in contact with the author to get more information, or a recent call about somebody they got scammed and needed help on who to talk to. So there's always a need for someone to help the senior population. Unfortunately, they're targeted with these scams. But the county has the senior population that needs this attention. And now we've got the Helping Seniors organization that is trying to pull all this, and is pulling all this together in one place to steer people in the right direction and getting solutions.
Yeah, when we did start Helping Seniors, several organizations in the county frowned on what we were trying to do because they felt that we were trying to compete with other service-type organizations. We never intended that. The only competition we might be accused of doing is just trying to make the organizations that receive federal and local government funds make their services known to the entire population, so the ability to access these services is fair and square, and people have a chance to access services so they can help themselves. Bill, from the attorney side of it, from the elder law side of it, and you get so many cases where that if people would have known about something ahead of time, they wouldn't be in the position they were in.
Correct, and you know, I've said on this show many times that part of our job, your and my job, is getting out there and educating people, and we do that not only on this show, but we do it in a variety of other different forums. I think if you go to this month's Senior Scene magazine again, you'll see not only did I write an article, you'll see that I'm giving 2 seminars at one senior place, you'll see that there's a list of expos that are out there that I'll be at, not all of them, but some of them, and there's a variety of things out there in the magazine that you can literally go find out a lot of information really on any given topic that affects seniors.
Well, you mentioned Senior Scene magazine, John. Since it's your magazine, I'd like for you to talk about, pick up on what Bill talked about, going to these fairs and what you can expect and what you should get from the fairs. Because I want to talk about what Bill talked about the schedules in there. Well, I'll talk after you do.
Yeah, that's been somewhat of a recent revelation for me, that getting into the senior environment, the expos take on a totally different meaning. You have a lot of services represented at these tables and booths at these expos, like Bill, for example, where a senior can come up with a real question, a real problem, and I think feel a little more at ease, a little more comfortable with asking a question outside of an office environment. And maybe there's an answer that can be had immediately. Maybe it's a lead-in to follow up later. But I think that environment now needs to be really utilized by the senior market, by the senior people, citizens of the county, that they can go and walk around and see the different organizations and services that are represented. And maybe they came there with a problem to begin with, or maybe just seeing these different services will trigger. And take a minute, talk to these folks. They're there to help. They're more than just giving out pens
and pencils. Yeah.
Utilize the service. It's a real evolution of the expo environment that I'm seeing here, and I'm hoping the seniors realize that, and whether it's their needs or maybe it's an adult child that has a need for their parent, discuss it with these people. They're there, they're experts, and start that dialogue. Maybe you'll get your answer. Maybe it'll lead to an answer. But it's a whole new purpose. Maybe it's not that new, that the expo and health fair environment can provide. And we need to build on that.
Well, you mentioned, and Bill mentioned too, all the schedules of events that are contained in the magazine. You can see this in TGIF from Florida Today, but many people don't get the paper anymore. You don't see it that easily online. But if you look at Senior Scene magazine, there are some very definitive schedules pushed there. I'm thinking in particular the one that Carrie Fink, the director at the Helping Seniors, puts in Senior Scene magazine, which is a listing of 15 TV shows that are shown weekly on the Space Coast TV channel at 8:30 in the morning, and then at 4:30 and 5 p.m. in the evening every day. And those television shows cover topics on elder law. They cover topics on surgery. I just had cataracts removed from both eyes, and on Tuesday this week they filmed the surgery on my left eye, and it shows them checking me in, and shows them doing the preparation, putting the drops and the medications in my eye to numb my eye. And I had trepidations about whether my eye was going to be numb just from putting some kind of a salve on the eye, but it actually worked. And they must not have given as much of this amnesia stuff second time as they did the first time, because I remembered them flushing my eye out with cold water and brushing the eyelashes to get the gop off the thing so they could operate on me. But all this is on film, folks, and we're going to probably within maybe 2 weeks we'll have it, because this is going to take some special editing, because they did some stuff with the close-up cameras that Dr. Darlington, when he did the surgery, it'll actually show what he did to my eye. And for all of you that are scared of having these types of things done, take a look and see what they did to me. And the reason I asked to be filmed was because I figured if people could see me doing it, they might not be afraid to do it as well, for themselves. And I think we learned a lot from that. It's like it's the same thing with people that come to you, I think, Bill. People that come in for services, they hear so many bad things. It's hard to pick up on the fact that you might spend $200 to get a super, super duper will done, and it might, in the long run, save you thousands of dollars in guardianship fees.
Well, it would be probate fees.
Probate fees.
But yeah, you can, manage somebody's estate to avoid all those fees, and there are ways around probate, not just through the use of, a one-size-fit-all trust. And then if you do your incapacity planning documents and they are sufficient, like we were talking about, you can avoid having to go to guardianship court too. So you could avoid thousands of dollars in fees like that.
Yeah, but no matter how many times we talk about doing a durable power of attorney well before the need exists, or doing the right kind of will, it's hard. It's hard to imagine the place you get yourself into. And I'm thinking, because John, in the first half of the show, you asked me whether or not people, callers, some of the information we could make a difference. We had a phone call from an 81-year-old lady that her husband passed away roughly a year ago. After he passed away, she fell, broke her hip. She had some other problems after the surgery. And it got to the point where her family thought she needed to be placed in long-term care, and they were going to place the woman in a nursing home. And it came to Kay's attention, and Kay recommended to the people that they go over to Zahn Beachside Assisted Living, the new assisted living facility. I'll mention the name because when they took the woman over there, they found out that the levels of care that they have with their memory care unit was something that could be cared for at Zahn. So instead of paying $9,000 for nursing home care, the woman went into assisted living care, and she had companionship. She got the kind of care she needed, and it was just a win situation. And Bill, when people come to you and you can help them with their legal documents, what is that? Doesn't that make you feel a heck of a lot better that you're able to do that?
Well, unlike some areas of law, we're kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of people get into these situations where, they don't know what's going to happen to them if they become incapacitated or if they pass on, or how they're going to pay for care. And a lot of times they can come in, in my practice at least, we dress down. We give them a comfort level, unlike, having them walk in and there's some big boardroom with an attorney in a three-piece suit. That immediately puts them on their heels and makes them defensive. So we kind of dress down, try to ease them in, talk to them in plain English, and address what their questions are, what their fears are, and then we can, get at how we solve that problem.
You don't challenge them to a cage fight.
Nope, we don't do that. No arm wrestling either.
Folks, and being involved in radio and TV and working with so many people over a career of my lifetime, I've come across so many people that they do things you never would expect them to do. And Bill has tried a lot of things. I think you still own the gym?
Yes, I do.
He's got a gym. He took a turn in cage fighting. You're not doing that anymore, though.
No, just sticking to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, jeez. Well, you actually what degree?
I've won a couple world championships in my age bracket, and I run a gym here in Melbourne. So I'm currently a brown belt. So.
How do you see, folks? This is the fun about talk radio and working with people. You find out that people get involved in something. And John, your background before you got into publishing Senior C magazine, what did you do?
Yeah, totally dissimilar. I started out in engineering, electrical engineering, and got into management there. But yeah, totally different than this type of, I'll call it work. It's a totally different perspective on the world and life. Engineers have their head in whatever, not the sand, but it's not in world affairs as such. But now, it's a new world out there. And, it's quite a change. It's quite a change.
Yeah, and it's something that we think about. Nothing has to be locked in concrete. We can change things. It's just like one of the things, Bill, that was in in recent edition of the National Association for Elder Law Attorney newsletter that I picked up, was that the Kaiser Foundation did a study on wheelchair use and walking sticks and all this kind of stuff, and they found that one of the biggest needs that's not being met is early planning in incapacitated housing. By that I mean that as the people develop floor plans, they could make wider door frames when they built their homes initially, so that in later years they didn't have to worry about getting a wheelchair through the door, or they can put the right kind of shower in when they first construct their home. And it's actually no different, but it just shows advanced planning. So these are some of the things we pick up and we try to pass on to our reading and listening audience, to our radio shows, our television shows, and our newsletter and all the stuff that we do. And that's why we have you as a contributor to our newsletter, so people can read about the latest changes in the law. What we talked about on the first part of the show. These are important to people. People need to know. And just, Laura, I think about a question I've asked you almost every show that you and I have done, and I'll ask it again today because I think people, as we get older and we get into a second marriage and move to Florida, there are things that people need. And when I said it, folks, Bill just did laugh. Go ahead, tell the people why you laughed.
Well, there's a lot of implications of second marriages in Florida, including several different laws that kick in, and they could drastically affect how your estate plan works and how you leave assets to your kids from a prior marriage. So that is a common pitfall for people when they come here. They don't realize that we have homestead laws and elective share laws that may drastically impact your estate and how you leave that. We did a conference at one senior place a while back on second marriages, and it was amazing how many people in the audience did not know anything about that. And subsequently, you could see some people just eyes fill with dread or terror when they learned about these laws. So
Well, until you go through it, you don't know. John, you were holding up senior scene there.
I didn't know how our time was today, but
We got time.
We did want to touch upon the Helping Seniors Club as a way of helping fund all these services.
I'll mention it real quick then. What John's talking about, folks, is that, and Bill and John and I were talking about funding senior care programs. You know, the Older American Act is one thing, the United Way is one thing, but all these things were pretty much locked into where the monies go, and you don't have ways to compensate for new organizations trying to do good things. The services of Helping Seniors are free, and they're free because most of the people that need the services can't afford to pay them. What we hope for is that some of the people that need our services or recognize the need across the county will become where our goal is to develop 1,000 people over the next year that will contribute $100 a year. That's $100,000, and that is actually 50% of our budget. So if we can get people to join in a grassroots effort to become a member of our club, and Kerry Fink, our new director, he talked to me about this club, and so he said, I want you and your wife, Terry, to be members number 1 and 2, and then Tammy and I, his wife, and him will be numbers 3 and 4. So if anybody wants to call, we made a commitment that in a monthly edition of Senior Scene magazine, we would keep the readership aware of how many people were involved in the club so you could see what we're doing. But also realize that when we reach our operational figures for the year and we got our bills paid, that all the money that we get will go into an endowment to help seniors across the board. And just like the lady that needed copay money for her cataract surgery, if we had the endowment working, that's one of the things that we could help people do. So I think it's important, and that's it. Bill, you have a comment on it?
No, I agree.
Yeah, there's just no way that we can say that we'll always have everything covered. And you asked me a question, John, and you sent it to me on air. You said, why is it important that more people be aware of are cognizant of senior needs? And I think one of the reasons is that why do you think?
Oh, I was going to say it could cost you. It could cost you big time. It could cost you in your independence. It could cost you financially. It could cost you in having your wishes not followed. There are a lot of things that it can impact you if you're not aware of what is out there and educate yourself to that.
John?
Well, people have to remember that the senior population is part of the total population, that those needs, those expenses should fall on all of us. And whether it's planning for that age ahead of time, or whether it's taking care of those that have already reached there, it's one county. We have to be aware of that.
Okay, folks, we're running out of time, and this is going to be a panel we're going to have back in the future, John and Bill back on, because they cover so many diverse needs across the county that need to be talked about. So stay with us and be with us next Thursday for the next edition of Helping Seniors. And if you want to become part of our $100 club, call Kay. I'll see you next week.